Hello everyone, welcome to the latest edition of the Late Challenge podcast. I am your host here, Mo Stewart. As you can see, sitting in that chair is not Gareth Roberts. He's got some very important business to take care of. He's in the process of securing a house. So if you're watching Robbo, I'm hoping it's all going well. But I knew I needed a substitute. Kopi is still part of the gang, but he's off around the world enlightening himself as he always likes to. So I thought, who could I bring in? Who could I find as a substitute? Who is the most David Fairclough-esque substitute?
Whoa. Whoa. More guest appearance than substitute.
Well, yeah, okay. You can be a guest. Okay, so if you would be a guest appearance, well, who's your favourite guest from TV shows then?
Oh, jeez. That's a big list.
Yeah.
Alive or dead?
I was compared to Janice from Friends the other day, and I'm not sure I'm down with that, but
who I'd like to have as a guest, or who I would... Yeah, that's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was talking like Debbie Harry, you know? It's one of my all-time heroes, yeah.
Well, there you go. The Debbie Harry of football podcast, Mr. Rob Gutmann.
I'll take that every day.
So you and I have done loads of shows together in the past. We used to do Talking Reds on the regular for the Anfield Wrap, and I think we both...
Why did we get cancelled?
I don't know.
Get cancelled. we got sidelined.
Yeah, without really any kind of explanation.
No.
So
I think it was just an administrative oversight. You know? Someone just forgot to schedule us.
Yeah,
Let's blame Neil.
I'm blaming Josh because it was
that guy.
Like when Lizzie was booking us and when Harry was booking us, it was always us, and then Josh came in and it was changed. Anyway. The point is, this is a reunion. This is us bringing the band back together for one show, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, people who know you will know that you have been in Portugal, as you like to do once the season finished. Yeah. So, first question, how was it?
It was gorgeous. Actually, it was a bit too hot, if I can complain slightly. There's a bit of a heat wave going on in the Iberian Peninsula, and Spain and Portugal are well hot. I think it was like 35 one day.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, you can't sit out in it. Well, you can, but it's not pleasant. No. But thanks for asking.
Well, I'm glad. So, yeah, I feel like the days of spending like 16 to 17 hours on a sunbed just like absorbing the heat, that's a young man's game. I don't really feel it's us anymore. I don't mean to be honest, it was never really me anyway.
It's never really me either. Because in proper summer temperature, it's just that rhythm of 3 minutes lying on a sunbed, then get in the pool because you're uncomfortable. It took me a long time to learn. Why am I actually doing this? It's not a law because you're in a hot country. And, you know, if you want to get a tan, you can walk around. That's allowed too.
Exactly.
You know? You get a tan that way anyway.
But anyway.
Enough tanning tips.
Yes,
that's not what people are here for.
No. Tanning is not really your expertise. Transfers. No. Now, transfers is something that people want to hear from you about, and we are going to be talking about them because Liverpool have been getting a move on, figuratively and literally, and we're going to be talking about all the things that have happened there. We're going to be talking about the Champions League final. I'm intrigued to see whether or not you watched it and what you thought of it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Club World Cup, and if anyone's asked at all. But also we're going to talk about what else is happening in the summer, and of course Rob's other specialist subject, pubs. Now all of that is going to be across both shows. We're not going to squeeze it all into this YouTube show, so if we get to the end of the YouTube show and we haven't talked about something you're interested in, come and join us on Patreon. You can come in, you can have a little bit of a trial, it's £4 a month for you to join us on Patreon, and you're going to get another whole hour of this to talk about. So the choice is yours. Come and join us. But let's start with the transfer window.
Aye.
Because we're in the middle of it right now. Mm-hmm. And technically, we've got two of them. Now, normally...
Two windows.
Yeah,
the little one and the big one.
Yeah, the little one and the big one. Now, when you heard about this, were you very much like... I get more transfer windows, I'm happy? Or were you like, why the hell do we have to stop for 6 days in the middle?
The latter. I don't really respect the boundaries of the transfer window anyway. No, it's an administrative technicality to an extent. Well, let's put it this way. The start point's an administrative technicality. As we've seen with Liverpool, they've, the likes of Frimpong were done before the transfer window opened. It was only its opening that allowed it to be officially declared. It ending is a genuine thing because that means you are not going to strengthen your squad past that date. That's a fact. But before it, it's a live thing, I think, from Easter onwards. and picks up in momentum as the football begins to wind down. As we've seen, the likes of Liverpool have looked to do business well before the official window is open.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because people have spoken so much about the benefits of Liverpool winning the league 4 games early and the long holiday a lot of the players had sometimes during the games, and all of the chance to kind of do different formations, what have you. What it's really meant is we've been able to concentrate on next season already. And you listen to Slot talk about it in some of his press conferences. He mentioned quite a few times about how when we're talking to players, we don't have to mention this or that because they can see how great it is to come and play for this team and when we win things. So it's like they've been talking to players for a long, long time.
Oh, they have. I don't quite buy because we've won the league, there's less, there's more free time to do bits like Richard Hughes goes, no, I don't have to watch Liverpool on telly. I can go and do some transfers.
He was busy.
He was busy anyway. What I do think's going on, though, and the reason we're seeing this flurry of activity from Liverpool is everything that's happened around winning the league is really exciting and the best PR for our football club you could imagine. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the fact of becoming champions in the first place, the scenes around the day we won the league against Spurs, the scenes around the trophy day against Palace, and then the scenes around the parade day. So there's all these series of very photogenic moments. Yeah. Which give Liverpool and are very fresh in the memories and are going around the football world, the football universe 3 times, in a day. So Liverpool aren't having to sell themselves so overtly. The wider media is doing it for us. So I think what they're doing at the moment, they are capitalising on work that's been going on for months, and they are striking whilst this iron is red hot.
Yeah, which is exactly what we want. I mean, we always want Liverpool to do stuff early. We always know that the managers want to do stuff early. Get him in, get as much time with them before pre-season starts to work on all that stuff. But you mentioned all of the great PR. That's just the stuff we've seen. The thing that I'm always fascinated about is the intra-player network. Yeah. The things that we know, what they say to each other. So there are lots of them on international duty at the moment. There's like Nations League and qualifiers, all that kind of stuff. Every single Liverpool player who's gone back to his international team, they're all just like, how was it? You got the medal? Let's see the medal. All of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you know that the way that players think, like more than just a PR script or something that a sporting director will tell them, because all sporting directors tell everyone that their club's great and that their club's historic and that they can win things. It's the players, that's really where the convincing happens. And I think if you think about the little Dutch gang that we've already built up, I think if there's any good Dutch players that are coming through in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be absolutely in the front of the queue.
Yeah, the whole presentation of the club thing actually reminds me of a lesson I learned really on in my work career, the difference between advertising and public relations, PR. Yeah. Advertising is you very obviously saying, aren't I good? And but you've paid money for the privilege of saying that, and that's what you're describing. A club's pitch to a player is, well, you would say that anyway stuff, right? Yeah. Whereas when other people say it about you, have you seen how amazing Liverpool's title win and everything around it is? I saw it on the news and it's come from a mate, a teammate, or it's come from a family friend. That's not Liverpool telling you Liverpool are great. That's the wider world telling you Liverpool are great. And likewise, it being a header story on Sky News, Sky Sports News. All that stuff plays into it. But as you said as well, looking at the Frimpong thing and the Dutch contingent thing, having a mate in the new workplace is definitely a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
People can play it down all they like, but Trent, whether he was 50-50 on his decision to go from Liverpool to Real Madrid or not, we'll never know. He'll always tell us that it was a painful, 51-49 sort of thing. But it's quite plausible that a few percent of his decision, the worth of his decision in favour of Real Madrid, was because of his Bezzy mate Jude Bellingham. And you're telling me Frimpong's not influenced by the fact that he's got 3 Dutch teammates, he's got a manager who can bed him in speaking his own language. I know he's pretty multilingual chap, is Jeremy, having been raised in Manchester. Yeah. But it's important. And I hope it's important too for Florian Wirtz, who seems to be very close to Jeremy Frimpong.
Exactly.
So it's a nice circle of virtuousness.
It's just like a rope where one pulls the other one along. Pulls the other one along. I love it. But you mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold, so we're going to go through the Liverpool dealings in a little bit of a chronological manner. And the first one was the official departure with a little sweetener on top of it, because Real Madrid were willing to pay 10 million euros to Liverpool to release Trent Alexander-Arnold early. But when you factor in bonuses and wages not have to be paid, it comes up to £10 million that Liverpool got for a player who was out of contract in a matter of weeks. I think that this is possibly one of my favourite things that Liverpool have done in a long time, because essentially it's really laying a marker down. It's like, yes, you may think you've won this battle, Real Madrid. You may think that you've got our player to run his contract down and waltz over to your fancy Enormo Dome and Global Galactico Palace, but we're going to make you pay for it. And if you want him so desperately soon, it's going to cost you. Because, I mean, what was it, 850 grand was their opening offer?
Yeah, something like that.
And I mean, £10 million is a lot more than 850 grand.
I'm not the same as everybody else on this, Mo, right?
No?
Everyone's got a lot of joy and the type of glee you've expressed out of it, like, haha, we've got one over on them. I kind of think it's like if a man's left his wife and kids and absolutely ruined their lives and got off with all the family assets, but says, hey, but you can keep the dog. Let's put it this way. I'm not sure that's a very good analogy at all. But there's
going to be lots of dog owners very upset with you, Rob.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I'm assuming there's a lot of other assets. Mind you can't put value on a dog's love, can you? Anyway, this is a whole different conversation. But my point is, in the wider scheme of things, it's chicken feed what they've given us. Yes, it's more. It's about 5 times the chicken feed we thought we were getting. It's still chicken feed, and it doesn't do any less for. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Trent himself says, "Like, can I weigh in for 3 or 4 million of this just because it looks a bit better?" Mind you, he should have publicised he did if he'd had done.
He
that.
Definitely would publicise he did.
So obviously he wouldn't have done something like that. Obviously, Liverpool have done a good deal, but it does speak to the fact that Madrid must rate this competition and think it's important to showcase their shiny new star, because I'm not sure what other big name they're going to get this summer.
They've bought Dean Howson.
They've bought Dean Howson, but he's lesser known. Obviously, he's one for the future to an extent. Yeah. So, but Trent's well known all over Europe. You know, he's the guy who got one over Barcelona. I think people assume Real Madrid's this mighty brand, and it is, but it's a mighty brand because they work on it. They really work on that brand, and they, and all they're masters of doing announcements and getting fans whipped into frenzies where they turn up like 20,000 of them in a stadium and the player does a speech, and we think we're cool because we release a few cryptic things on Instagram or X, a minute before we announce the signing. Yeah. Theirs is a whole different deal. So they might say, look, there's some literal dollars in it for us getting this player showcased in this competition. We might sell X amount more shirts. There's a bit more for our profile around this. A bit more attention to, quite frankly, the competition, because a lot of our fans who might have been indifferent might go, whoa, everyone wants to see the new boy. I don't know. I think they'll have done their sums.
Yeah, maybe that's true. I mean, even so, I think the idea of making them go up considerably from where they originally won, I do think that's it
is a win. It's not a win. It is a win.
I'm kind of thinking back into the kind of way that Real tried to ride roughshod over Liverpool throughout this whole period, from the derisory bids in January and all that kind of stuff, and the badly timed leaks here and there that Trent either didn't know about or was happy to go along with, that have kind of destabilised and really kind of soured some of what should have been a really joyous occasion towards the end of the season for some people, not for everybody.
I tell you what, Mo, if you sort of, what's the word, retrofit our understanding on the whole Trent saga, knowing what we now know, there's some revelatory moments which I think we can reinterpret. So back in January, when reports broke of Real Madrid putting a bid out to try and get the player early, people were going, whoa, didn't realise they were that far advanced on a deal for Trent, thought Trent hadn't made his mind up yet. But nothing happened, so people were able to park it and still say to themselves, well, maybe Trent hasn't made his mind up. And briefings to the media were, there are no decisions in this. In fact, when Trent finally came out and the video was done and the stories were given to the press in their fullest form, it was publicised that Trent had told Arne Slot in March that he was leaving. Now, hang on a second. And in that, the implication is he made his decision on February the 28th and told Slot on March the 1st. Did he fuck, quite frankly?
I was going to say, that does seem slightly fanciful, doesn't
No,
it?
I remember saying in shows when news was leaking of these Madrid bids in January, I thought, hang on a second. If these bids are true and they are facts and Real Madrid are making these bids, it's because the player knows about them. They are with his consent. He has to be prepared that if Liverpool accept a £20 million bid from Madrid in January, that he'd jump. And we now know in the reporting it's mentioned, of course, Madrid definitely as a fact did put those bids in January. That was mentioned again last week when they talked about the fee we're getting now. So if they put those bids in January, we can assume the player knew, and therefore the player made his decision in his own mind at the very least, and in terms of the word he gave to Madrid, considerably before March. What we read into that, are we any more disappointed in his decision? I don't know. But I think the narrative needs to be clarified. No one needs to think this was agonised until the last couple of months, because it clearly wasn't. Well, I don't think it was.
No, I think the other thing about that, what you said, is that in the world in which he really didn't know about it, he probably, even though he said he wasn't talking about anything, he probably would have made it known through the channels that he was very upset by it. But that didn't happen. But no, as Sukbir mentions here in the comments, he says he's gone. I've forgotten about him already. So maybe we should. Do you think that it's a good point to just draw a line under him? And do you like the fact that Liverpool tried to do that so emphatically by waiting until that one was confirmed before announcing Frimpong on the same day?
Well, I think the wait with Frimpong was to do with the transfer window opening, wasn't it, as much as anything? But you're right. But I wonder if there'd been an agreement with Trent's side that, can we just do this just after you throw us this bone as well? Because I doubt they were sitting there coordinating with Madrid over Trent specifically. So I think I doubt they would have naturally. I think there might have had to be some collusion. So I think it's nice. I do agree with the drawing of the line. I mean, mentally, I think I'd drawn a line even before his announcement. I realised he was off. I thought, if you really love this club and staying is your thing, you'd have briefed a few times, like Mo did, like Van Dijk did, and gone, hey, at the end of the day, nothing would make me happier than staying. He stopped short of that. So the falling out of love with Trent Alexander-Arnold, the player, for me, started some time ago. So I'm very, very much over him. Very much want us to move on from him. I know we're talking about him now. I'm pissed off about it in the widest sense, and think he's diminished his legend, if you want to call it, by moving him. But I'm not ruling out, and some people might throw their hands up at this, I'm not ruling out if in 2 years' time, and he's done well enough, but he's homesick and wants to come back to Liverpool, and we have a need, if all the planets align, I'm not going to say no to him coming back. He hasn't, sullied his reputation that much in my mind. I know loads of people go, you're mad. Never in a million years. But that's how I feel about it. And that's not to say I forgive Trent for leaving us.
Well, what I would say in that instance is look at what Everton was saying about Wayne Rooney when he left and he came back. So nothing is impossible in football.
Big distinction that we have to stress. They were a pile of shit.
Yes. And hopefully we aren't. But okay, so let's do what we were going to say we could do and move on and talk about Frimpong. I put a link in the agenda to the footage of him at the AXA training ground. We had all of his family in the area where they did the press conference. Everyone standing around him. And
did you see the stuff his sister did? Her story. That's amazing. Is it from there? Yeah.
And I love the story of the fact that he wanted to sign for Liverpool as a youth player, but his parents couldn't get him there because they didn't have a car. And the fact that his dad's a big Liverpool fan and that him and his brothers grew up watching CTV and all that kind of stuff. And you know that he wouldn't be the first player to come in and say, oh, it's always been my dream to play for Liverpool. Hello, Robbie Keane. But this does genuinely feel like someone who's excited, who knows what it means to play for Liverpool and is going to give his absolute all every time he steps on the pitch in a red shirt.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. I think it felt like, to an extent, we've moved on from the era where that was ubiquitous. I think it's because, I think if you go back 20 years ago, I'm thinking it was every single bloody time. 17 years. Stuart Downing was a lifelong red. I think Andy Carroll maybe even suggested he had a red T-shirt. Or you know what I mean? Everybody.
No one believes Andy Carroll.
Every fucker had some red love in their childhood. But I think as the games become more globalised and more non-English players have come, I think we've come to sort of not expect it. They grew up supporting Barcelona or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or whoever. They didn't have to grow up supporting Liverpool fans, and it almost feels like a throwback that he says he was a boyhood Red. I mean, the Trent Alexander-Arnold thing, to bring back that for one more time, is instructive that it's sort of meaningless, quite frankly. Once it's your job, you're not a boyhood anything. You're somebody carving out the best career you can in a sport where it's really hard to be at the very top. Yeah. You almost can't afford the sentiment of going, well, do I want to play there or because my dad had a Liverpool poster in my room when I was a kid, or do I want to play there because that's best for my career? That's even before we talk about money and other sorts of prestige. I think you've got to, as a professional, you've got to be focused on what's best for you professionally. So whilst it's nice, and I think in fact in Frimpong's case, it's nicest for his family. It's a cherry on a cake for that lad. It really is. I think the main reasons he's coming to Liverpool is because they're fucking good.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you talk about business decisions and being a professional, we're going to come on to a certain curly-whirly-haired fella for whom that is very much a real possibility. But I do think at the beginning of you, like, Frimpong's got that excitement that Trent probably did have when he first joined Liverpool. You get that excitement of the wow, I can't believe I'm going to get to be here, I'm going to get to go on the pitch, I'm going to hear you never walk alone, I'm going to hear him sing my name, etc. But you're right.
Of course he buys into
there is a point where they have to get down to business. And thankfully, he's got plenty of business to get down to, because the one thing, if you look, anyone who's seen him play, and I'm sure that all of you have done all of the YouTube diligence, any of you who hadn't seen him a lot playing for Bayer Leverkusen will look at him play. The first thing that comes to mind is, wow, this kid's fast. The second thing that comes to mind is, wow, this kid runs all day long. Because if you look at the stats, he is not only one of the quickest players, or one of the quickest players in Bundesliga, but he sprints more often than anybody else. So he's a very, very different player to the guy who's replacing. And to be honest, every right back in the world is a very different player to the guy he's replacing. So are you pleased that Liverpool didn't try and find like a Trent light and just said, no, we're just going to do it a different way and we're going to get one of the best in the world at doing it this way?
He's a very different player to the player who's left us, but I don't think he's a million times different from the young player we first put in our right-back slot and put our faith in. That the younger Trent was a converted attacking player. He'd played in, was it Michael Beale's under-21 side? I think quite often right-hand side of a three behind a striker.
Yeah.
So he was very much a kind of right-sided midfielder. You wouldn't have called him a winger at a younger age, but you would have called him a right-sided midfielder. To sort of bed him in the team as a 16-year-old, I think I remember watching his debut as a 16-year-old at Swindon in a pre-season friendly. I think I come to see Benteke and Firmino make their debuts that day. But Trent was there. You'd barely heard of him. He was at right-back. You didn't expect his career to actually naturally develop there. I mean, Steven Gerrard starts his career at Liverpool as right back and was moved further forward. In fact, I think we spent a lot of the Trent's career expecting him to move into midfield as well. But getting back to your point, I think he was pacey. He got beyond everybody else down the right-hand side, Trent, when he was young, and he whipped a ball in. Now, so that's not a million miles off Jeremy Frimpong to an extent. What we didn't so much see there was Trent pinging them from deep, as we've seen in the last two parts of his career. And that you will never see Frimpong really do. No. But he will get you up the pitch, and the running will pull men with him and create space for Mohamed Salah, hopefully inside him, and attacking midfield players. I'm excited by his electrifying pace. I mean, in Ian Graham's book about how Liverpool went about their scouting and data analytics, he talks about actually how Jurgen Klopp looked for freakish attributes in a player beyond anything else. What could they do, even if they had you wanted one or two things that they did that other players just simply didn't do, that were unnaturally good, even if they had limitations in their game. And I think he's an ultimate, not ironic thing, but the interesting thing I think to observe is Frimpong's a very Jurgen Klopp player. Yeah. You know, Jurgen would go, maybe not the greatest defensive right back in the world. We'll make adjustments for that with the rest of the team, but he's unnaturally fast.
And the interesting thing is that you got the sense that Slot was less inclined to make those adjustments for Trent. If you think about the way that Jurgen allowed Trent to kind of, at one point in his last season, he was in between the centre halves picking the ball up and just kind of drifting all around the defensive third, trying to find space to work in. Whereas Slot was very much like, no, you're a right back. These are the midfielders. You're going to be over there. So do you think when it comes to Frimpong, he is going to be a little bit more flexible? Or do you think maybe that was just inspired by the fact that he thought he was getting off anyway, so he wasn't really going to give him all this free rein if he's not going to have him for more than a year? And whereas with Frimpong, he is more willing to kind of give him the platform to do what he does best.
I mean, I think the latter thing you've just said is what a manager would say instinctively, because you don't buy something, you don't buy a dog and bark yourself, or whatever the expression is. So big day for the dogs in this podcast.
Oh yeah.
So I'm inclined to think, do you know what, the one thing Slot doesn't know is how this boy adapts to this league. He doesn't know what he looks like with our midfield players or our centre halves to the left of him, or Mo Salah nominally ahead of him. He doesn't know quite what that looks like until he sees it. I think the idea he'll have in his mind is he's a lightning attacking footballer. You let him off the leash and you try and benefit from that. I do think if he's of course he's so intelligent and meticulous though, that he will have thought ahead as to how this likely pans out. And he's going to want to buy the Frimpong he's seen at Leverkusen. I don't think he's going to want to change him particularly. So I think he'll think he will need to make adjustments, and I think that comes in central midfield with, instead of one anchor six, as we've seen last season in Gravenberg, I think we see much more of a double pivot sort of formation. And that could change from game to game, but I think that might be his new default setting. But of course, we don't know who he thinks is the first choice pick out of Connor Bradley and Frimpong.
No, I mean, it was very, very noticeable that he gave Bradley a 4-year contract around the same time. So if Ed Bradley or his agents or anyone was in any doubt of the way they think about him, they're like, no, you're here too. like this is not, he's not signing him to be the number one and you're the number two. This is a fight. And I'm really fascinated by how that's going to play out. But you mentioned midfield. We've nearly done half an hour and we haven't talked about Florian Wirtz yet. Some people are getting quite edgy in the comments. So let's talk about Florian Wirtz, shall we?
Let's do it.
Speaking of people getting edgy, this from the initial rush of the, wow, looks like Liverpool are in pole position to get the player, it's kind of calmed down a little bit now, the kind of day-to-day machinations of will Liverpool put this bid in, then they got knocked back, then Liverpool put another bid in, then they got knocked back, then it turns out Leverkusen want players, then it turns out maybe they don't want players, and we're in the middle of that dance, the transfer kind of tango. Now, for some people, as I say, they get a little bit nervous around this time when you think about transfer deals that slipped through Liverpool's fingers. I mean, literally 12 months ago, for example. How do you see it? You're a transfer vet. Are you happy to do the dance, or are you getting nervous?
Because I'm nervous because I'm not on the inside track of this. I tell you what you can't know is just how committed the player is. Liverpool have done these kind of deals all the way through my lifetime, whereby they get the lads boxed off mentally and then they play the game with the club. But you can see that come unstuck. I mean, history shows when Liverpool tried to get Michael Owen back on board after he came back from Real Madrid after 1 year, Liverpool's fannying around with Madrid over the fee gave an opportunity for Newcastle to blow them out of the water, and the player went, well, I'd like to have gone back to Liverpool, but I'm not waiting around while they try and find some more money. And we've seen with Wirtz that there is, I think reading between the lines, there's an emotional aspect to his decision making here. Rationally emotional, if that makes sense, in as much as he's decided that Liverpool are in some ways befitting of his personality as much of anything as his ethos. And I think he's guided by his father and his family in that respect. And the Bayern Munich's arrogance around the transfer is, from all we read, was possibly their undoing.
Yeah.
Now, if Liverpool want to take Leverkusen for mugs by going, hey, we've got the player, you've got no other bidders here, your leverage is reduced, there's a point at which that can manifest itself as arrogance, quite frankly. And if I was a player, I'd get twitchy. Now, and that depends on if there's other suitors in the market. We know City were there. We know Bayern Munich were there. They've both been out of the running because, and I don't think it might be a bit financial with Bayern Munich. I don't think it would be with City, despite their protestation.
Despite what they said.
No, I think they got out early because they believed firmly that Liverpool were there, and they didn't want to look like they came second to Liverpool in this race. It would have been humiliating for them. So I am nervy. I do wonder what leverage Liverpool think they've got. I think the leverage they've got is, well, okay, they've got the players' word in inverted commas, but Bayern thought that too. They also know that they don't want to sell to Bayern. They don't want to sell in Germany. So we're a good fit as a sale.
So let me throw another name into the hat who has been thrown in by other people who may make the name that always makes people nervous.
Yeah, I know you're going to say.
Yes, the team who now have his former Bayer Leverkusen manager.
Yeah.
Real Madrid. Now, we mentioned before, we don't know who else they're going to go in for. We also know that, to be honest, they don't really throw big money at players that often anymore. I mean, I think Bellingham's was around the £85-ish million mark when it came through. But other than that, they've been doing, obviously, they've run the contract down game. They paid 50 million for Dean House, and we don't know whether or not they're going to have to pay it all in one go or whether they get installments on that. But do you think that in this kind of impasse with Liverpool, like you say, trying to kind of finesse the edges, that someone else could come in, or do you think it's just a case of Liverpool or stay at Leverkusen for him?
I hope it's just Liverpool. I hope staying at Leverkusen has faded in his mind as an option. I think at the beginning, the latter part of the season, I think let's rewind the clock. Let's say to about Christmas, where you couldn't guarantee where Alonso was going to end up, and you probably couldn't say who the next Leverkusen manager might be. He didn't know whether Bayern Munich would stump up the money that Leverkusen would want with another year, 2 years left of his contract. I think at that stage, the player and his family would have gone, if we have to stay another year in Leverkusen, which has been really productive for us, I think that's fine. Or if we go to Bayern Munich, that's great too. But things have changed. I think Xabi Alonso jumping ship, quite frankly, maybe the knowledge of Ten Hag coming in. I don't want to be too overtly disrespectful to another human being just going about his job, but he's not covered himself in glory in the Premier League. I think Leverkusen will come to realise they've made a mistake appointing him. I don't think play as you said, we've said earlier, players talk. And there's quite a few of them, high-profile Manchester United ones who go, fuck me, I'm not paying. I wouldn't play for him. I mean, Dutch players, we speak to Frimpong, we might speak to German players, we might speak to Wirtz, I don't know who I'm thinking of specifically. So I think staying at Leverkusen isn't as much of an option as it once was for the player. But I do agree with you, the Real Madrid thing. I do think one thing that keeps me more comfortable in this one is that Real Madrid don't tend to enter transfer sagas late in the day. I can't think of any. When we've been in races with them before, I mean, we beat them to Allison punch back in 2019, was it? 2018, I think. 2018. But they'd been linked for a while there.
Yeah.
And, and we also knew they had this option in Thibaut Courtois back then. Bellingham, they were always in the race for Bellingham, when we went against them for that. So I can't remember them coming late in the day and gazumping us. It's not like whereas we're late day gazumpers. We keep very, very secret, like we did with Luis Diaz, like we did with Moises Caicedo, like we did with Cody Gakpo, really.
Just sitting behind the blinds, kind of peeking out every now and then, seeing what's going on.
Well, I seriously think we say, when we register interest with an agent, we go, if this gets out, we're out. And there are probably some stories behind the curtain whereby we've done that. And agents have gone, fuck, I thought we had Liverpool as an option, but they just walked.
Yeah.
Because how the whole Michael Edwards sort of philosophy is. It's all about positioning and how you're perceived. And that's what gives us the leverage.
Yeah, I would absolutely hate to play poker with that guy. Frankly, because I couldn't afford it for nothing. Okay, so let's not talk about the will he, won't he. Let's talk about in the world that he does.
Yeah.
Where's he going to play? This is the fascinating part for me because there has been so much talk about the fact that he's a versatile footballer. He's a 2-foot footballer. You can see him. He's played as a false 9. He's played as number 10. Some people talk about him starting on the left and coming into central areas, coming on the right and starting in central areas. And then you look at the makeup of the Liverpool attack at the moment, and you'd say that the main gap is in centre forwards, with obviously Darwin Núñez likely to be leaving, Diogo Jota still in the realms of being unreliable, I think it's fair to say. So you can see a world where that happens, where he becomes a false 9-y type thing. Do you think that Liverpool would do that long term, though? Do you think that he would be starting 32 league games as a false 9?
I've gone backwards and forwards on this one. I think when the news broke that we were strongly in for Wirtz, and the amount of money, because there had been no prior indication that Liverpool saw themselves as lacking a 10 or would invest in that position. We all thought if Liverpool were going to spend money, it'd be on an Isak at 130 odd million, or the next best striker, 80 or 90 million. So for a position we hadn't been talking about, for him to come in at that money, my first instinct was, whoa, is this actually the way they're viewing the number 9 position as a false one? And therefore false 9 equals 10, right? So that made a certain sort of sense to me. And I'd sort of settled on that in my mind until you look at other pieces coming into play, which is just are the reports of what Slot had proposed to the player was ideal for the player and better than what Company and Bayern Munich proposed to him. He'd read things like he was going to be allowed to play in his best position, the position he'd played in at Leverkusen more often than not. And then I looked at the other noises around our transfer business. Harvey Elliott. Now, it's a strange one to link to Wirtz, I think, given the levels of transfer they'll each represent. But Harvey Elliott leaving creates something of an extra void in the squad. There were times last season when you looked at Liverpool's midfield options and went, we're light here if we get an injury. We went into the season without having secured Zubimendi. Okay, Gravenberch filled the role better than anyone thought, but we still had a bodies number. We went into that season, we had 5 bodies plus Wataru Endo, who quite frankly the manager didn't really trust until after we won the league. Anyway. He didn't really trust him. So we had 4. Harvey Elliott went out with an injury early on, and you went, Jesus Christ, there, but for the grace of McAllister picking up an injury or Szoboszlai going out for 7 or 8 weeks, we're short, we're light, especially in busy weeks. You've got League, Champions League cycle. So you thought we still need one in midfield. But coming through past Christmas and the January window, scant links to midfield players. Lots of forwards, lots of wingers, left backs here, the odd right back, no midfield links. Then we hear as the season concludes, Harvey's going, and you go, well, if we needed a midfielder in August 2024, we need a midfield player now. And lo and behold, the biggest transfer link outside of fullbacks we get, and the strongest one, is for a player who can play as an attacking midfield player, not a front 3 player. And I think there's a key distinction. People like to call Szoboszlai a 10. It's not a 10 in old money. Kenny Dalglish was a 10. Bergkamp was a 10. In a different sort of way, Maradona was a 10.
Yeah.
These are front 3 footballers. They're 10 because they play 4 or 5 yards off a 9 to feed little balls through to work outside the box initially to make time their runs a little bit later. An attacking midfield player is expected to do a bit more tracking back into midfield. He puts his foot in that bit more than a 10. He's not stood in one spot sort of orchestrating. So as time's gone by with this deal, I'm beginning to wonder if he's a midfield 10 rather than a front 3 player. I know he can play all those positions, but I'm just not convinced. Also, the briefings, if you want to call them that, or the noises coming from the club are that they still want a number 9. And if they still want a number 9, what are they doing? How many players are they actually playing? A front 4? I don't think so, not in the orthodox sense.
Well, Adam Petrioni has said that Gyökeres and Ekitike have both pulled out of their national team camps.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So
breaking.
So it sounds like either one or both of those are expecting to be moving within the next week or so. So we'll have to keep an eye on exactly what that means. But I'm like you. I still think Liverpool are going to be targeting an actual number 9. Hopefully someone who can be a bit versatile. Hopefully someone who's not going to cost the kind of prices that Ekitike is being quoted at, for example. But I think that Liverpool's still got another rabbit to pull out of their hat, and we'll have to wait and see on that. But
there's 4 candidates. I'd say 4 candidates for those 2 players. Would you? Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United.
Yes. So Chelsea have obviously bought Liam Delap.
Yep.
We don't know if they're going to get rid of Nicholas Jackson. They are definitely going to get rid of Christopher Nkunku. So Chelsea would be a risk. Man United seem to be able to appeal to players despite not having any European football at all, which is slightly surprising.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think they're picking up the good players so far. The signs are they're looking to pick up the good players that the best Champions League clubs aren't going to go for. So if Arsenal go for, say, Sesko, Chelsea settle on Delap, and Liverpool go for Ekitike, let's just pick some names, that leaves a Gyökeres. They have a free run at Gyökeres, for example, or you could inverse those things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly surprised that Cunha and Mbeumo, for example, aren't asked about European football. I'd have thought going from teams who look like they were never going to get to European football, their next move probably should have prioritised that, but that's just me. I'm not their agent. But anyway, let's move on. Talk about another player who definitely has left, Queeve Kelleher, who now looks like he is very much, I don't know if it's officially signed and sealed, but the deal looks like it's all but ratified for him to go to Brentford, become a number 1. Brentford have sold their number 1 keeper, Mark Flecken, to Bayer Leverkusen, interestingly enough.
That is interesting.
Before we talk about how we feel about Queeve and all that he's done during his Liverpool career, the biggest chat around his deal has been the price. A lot of people seem to believe that 12.5 raising to 18 million feels a little bit low. How do you see it? Obviously, we know he's in the last year of his contract. Do you feel that maybe there's an element where we aren't being realistic in terms of his true value out there in the market? Or do you think, well, there's some good clubs who are going to be looking for goalkeepers. Maybe we could have got into a bit more of a bidding war for him.
I mean, the first thing we don't know is 12.5 reaching 18 in add-ons. How easy are the add-ons, right? We don't know that. So it makes it hard to judge because there's quite a gap. I mean, that's a lot of add-ons in percentage terms. It's not like, let's say, if we do Wirtz for 110 plus 20 odd in add-ons, that's 17%. I'm off the top of my head, maths. I don't probably there here or there by a percentage.
About that.
Whereas 6.5 on 12.5 is that 5.5 on 12.5 is about 45%, right? Boosting in the price if add-ons are achieved. That's quite unusual, I would say. So, I mean, it might just be just another way of doing a transfer in installments. It might be he makes 30 appearances a season.
You'd think it would be appearance for a team like Brentford.
It's
who
not going to be Champions League. It's not going to be winning cups. Right?
No, you'd think it would be appearances, and considering they have just sold their other goalkeeper, you'd think they'd be pretty well achievable.
So it just might be a nice way for them, and also it might be an accounting exercise, quite frankly. So let's go with the 18 as the figure for argument's sake. I was trying to work this out the other day. You often see players in the last year of his contract, so his price is reduced. I mean, with Wirtz, Bayern were hoping to get Wirtz next year rather than this year for less money.
Yep.
But how much less is the perennial question. I think, and I don't have stats on it because you can never know for sure what they would have charged one year to the next. I think, broadly speaking, you're going to get a player that's got decent value anyway, not one that's sort of on his way out and you're just getting rid of him, but you'll generally get them for 60% approximately, I'm going to say, of their full value with a year to go rather than 2, 3, 4 years to go. That would say that Kelleher a year ago, if 18 million is value now, his value a year ago is approximately 30 million, maybe including add-ons. Now, a year ago, if we got 30 million for Kelleher, you'd have gone, okay, yeah. Because people were going 25-ish then. Those who rate him would go, I think you could get 40 million for Kelleher. Those who don't go, you'd be lucky to get 15 for Kelleher.
Exactly. There was a big gap last season, but then you could say that the way he's played this season has kind of closed that gap a little bit. I think so. I think it's the year-long thing. I think probably Liverpool realised that Kelleher held the cards. He could have gone,
he could quite frankly have gone, don't fancy Brentford, who've you next? You got Bournemouth, don't fancy them. Who next? You got Fulham, don't fancy them. And Liverpool could have got to August and gone, we've fucking got to loan him out now.
Yeah.
And now what's his value?
Exactly.
So I think, stung maybe by a bit of Nat Phillips going, look, we may have taken a hit by 5 million on Kelleher here. Maybe we would like to have got 23, 24 million for him. But at the end of the day, this is fine. People go, it's loyalty. I don't think there's much loyalty in football, but...
No, and I think, obviously, from the Kelleher's perspective, he wanted to go last year, and Liverpool didn't let him go because no one got to the point. And so he probably wouldn't have been happy about that, even though, obviously...
It worked quite
it worked
well
for him. He got his memories this year. He got to save Mbappe's penalty, etc., etc. So, yeah, I think that you can come to a point where a year later, Liverpool are going to be a little bit less hardline about certain bits. But you're right, you kind of rationalise it well. 60% of the value for a player is last year of his deal. And that really is the biggest part of it. But,
yeah.
I mean, I said on the show that I do with Josh Williams yesterday that I think he's possibly the best number 2 goalkeeper I've ever seen in terms of the ability to come in when needed and be good. Very, very good.
Well, I said on X last night, I said he's definitely the best number 2 Liverpool have ever had in my lifetime, but I'm sure before that as well. They never had a better. I just stopped short of the shout you just made. The best high level number 2 there's ever been. You could look at the Stegen Bravo.
Yeah,
Bravos. What's his name?
Claudio Bravo. Yeah.
Bravo thing. But that was two number ones sharing the position, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But a true deputy. I can't think of another true deputy. Can you?
No, and that's,
Thibaut Courtois, was he a deputy for a while? But even then,
no,
he was on loan, wasn't he?
Yeah. He went out on a loan. And the other thing as well is that a goalkeeper, you really need to have played. You really need to have kind of gone out on loan and had a full season of ups and downs, even if it's at a lower level. He's never had that.
No,
he's never had that point. So for him to be such a high level in fits and starts,
you could deep end him. He's remarkable for that.
I think, and I really do hope that he works out really well for Brentford. And I think Brentford are the kind of club that I like Liverpool having good links with, not just because they're a smart team, but I like them doing well. I think that they're the kind of club that you want to see continue to do well. So hopefully he can do well for them. Darren Lewis here in the comments saying 40 million would have been a top 5 transfer for a goalkeeper of all time. So we do overestimate how much goalkeepers go for.
I'd say that's the upper limit. If you were a real Kelleher enthusiast, you could build a case for that a year or so ago. And I think probably, given the season he's had, if he had 2 or 3 years left on his deal, I think one would be my 30 million would be a starting point rather than a finishing point, possibly. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think a year ago, if we got 30 million, no one would have moaned.
What do you think about the whole idea of the whole 4D chess in terms of we sell them to Brentford and that helps Leverkusen and that makes them be a little bit more cool in the verse negotiations? Do you think that's a thing?
No, unless there's a specific accounting diddle that they could do. Liverpool, Leverkusen could have worked out, hang on, we want Flecken, they're asking X for this. If you tell them that you'll give them your keeper for 3 million less than you want to ideally, but you've got to give us Flecken for 3 million less. It feels a bit too, why would you bother? I don't know, because you go, we just argue the toss about the player we are actually negotiating.
Yeah.
I do think it probably helps the wider fact that Liverpool and Leverkusen have felt quite close. They're dealing over Frimpong. There's definitely a connection over the Flecken thing. They're going to be aware of it. Although they won't be 4D chess, they'll be having conversations with each other.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of, you want to buy Flecken from Brentford? That's interesting. We're trying to sell them Queeve Kelleher. Yeah. Well, we can all help each other. Joke, laugh, and it's just I just think it creates a sort of mood music around it, which can help rather than the specificness of like, we do this, you do Y.
I think we all like to think it goes a lot more deeper. There's a lot more those kind of complex machinations and stuff than there really is. I think, from the outside, we want it to be, this player decided to announce that he was leaving, or this club made a bid for this player to push the price up for someone else, and all those other kind of things. And I'm not 100% sure that it ever happens that way. I think a lot of the time we just like to think of it that way because, these are the dark, shadowy arts of the transfer world that none of us ever really get to deal with. But we've done loads of the show already, and we've still got loads to come.
We haven't done crisps yet.
I know. Well, you know what? It's funny you should say that because
I was joking. We're going to do crisps.
We got crisps. So, anyone who watched the last show will know that we have literally enough crisps to last us a lifetime. And my plan was to have a bag.
You don't have to. You should do health warnings on crisps. Eat crisps responsibly, kids. It's part of a balanced.
So I won't go into the Irish ones because I know the Robbo will want those.
They look posh, those crisps.
Let's go.
Posh Irish crisps.
Oh, so how are you on seafood?
I love seafood.
Oh, that's good because Robbo hates seafood. So we'll do this one.
Prawn crackers, are they? By any other name?
Tom Yam seafood. They come from Singapore.
Are we going to live try them?
Yes, we are going to live try them.
I'm delighted to try those. I don't like the look of those posh crisps.
No?
No, I don't like posh crisps. I don't like... Yeah.
Right, well, I've absolutely butchered this bag, but there we go. Get your laughing gear around the Tom Yam.
Let's have a little look at it. Oh, whoa. The camera can pick them up, but they're ridged.
Yes.
I personally think the ridged are the finest of all crisps.
Oh, really?
I've just come back from Portugal and I think in Spain they do... What do they call them? Ruffles or something like that? And they do a ham-on flavoured one and they do a ketchup flavoured one. It's fucking spectacular.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The ridge creates a sort of surface area crustiness ratio. I like a McCoy.
It's just like a valley for the seasoning to sit into as well. That's one thing I like about ridge crisps.
What the fuck? I'm actually I feel like I'm eating a crisp whilst having Tom Yam soup in my mouth at the same time.
Yeah, that is highly accurate. I mean, it's from Nissin, so they do like the cup noodles and stuff like that.
Very Tom Yam tasting. It's like, have you ever... I mean, I like a chicken flavoured crisps, but it doesn't taste like any chicken I've ever eaten. No. I like ham-on flavoured Ruffles. Doesn't taste like any ham-on I've ever eaten.
No.
That tastes like Tom Yam.
And it's got a bit of a spice to it as well, so I warn you to be careful if we're going back in for a double
Can we just
dip.
eat them for a while? They're very fucking tasty.
No, you crack on. So, before the show's ended, there's a couple of other things I wanted to mention. One of which... Today is a very exciting day in my calendar because today is the day when the Glastonbury lineup is officially announced with timings and who's on what stage at what time.
So you care about that shit, don't you?
I really care about that
I reckon I'm going to say 80% of Glastonbury goers barely give that. Okay, they'll kid themselves they care. It's all about the whole thing, isn't it? Not for everybody, but not for you because you're a proper music fan.
Yes and no. I think the vibe... And being there is the most important thing. But there are a few acts that you're like, okay.
The vibe. I love what that's a euphemism for.
Oh, yeah.
I know what people go there for. I've got so many friends who are in their 40s because I can't wait for Glastonbury. What can't you wait for?
It's the only chance you get all year long.
Yeah, they come out of retirement for 4 days only. We know. I see you. You Glastonbury fans. Not you, Mo, because you're a music man.
I mean...
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, we'll discuss...
skirt around you.
We'll discuss that in the subscriber show. Anyway, the point is that this year is very special for a specific reason, because this year on the lineup is me.
Shit off.
No shitting.
Thank God.
Yes.
Someone I've heard of.
So yes, if you are going to Glastonbury this year, make sure you come to the Village Inn on Thursday night at 8:30, and you'll be able to hear 2 hours of me DJing, which is exciting for so many reasons. One, it's the third time in a row I've been playing at this place, which means that they like me and they hopefully keep inviting me back. So this could turn into an actual residency where I'm there every year, which would be incredible.
Well done, mate.
Thanks. But also, it's 2 hours. It's a long set. Like not very many people at Glastonbury, DJs wise, get 2 hours. Like the high ranking fellas, they get 2 hours. I've got 2 hours on a Thursday night. So the thing about Thursday night is that not everywhere is open. Like the Pyramid stage, the other stage, the ones that you've heard of, they don't get open till Friday. So there's a few...
Now you're a celeb DJ, you have to do things like play the bongos or get a saxophone out halfway through your set.
No gimmicks. I mean, there might be a few mad loops or like, you know, samples I drop in.
Do you use vinyl?
No, I've got a little controller that's got the USB 6 on it, so it's all digital.
Okay.
But it's 2 hours of music, and so I get to really kind of go deep into it. I get to mess around, I get to play whatever I want, and I mean, just in the process of the last 2 or 3 days of putting together my set, and it's like, there's so much I could do. And normally...
Is it a lot of pressure?
So the first one was a lot of pressure, because it's like, this is kind of like my life's work. I don't want to then mess it up and have a bad memory of the whole thing that I always wanted to do. But that went well. And then last year went really well. Last year was one of the best sets I've ever done in my life.
How are you judging well? Number of people on dance floor dancing at any one time, or feedback?
I mean, both of those things. Right. They are really the two things that you judge a DJ set by. And because I recorded it and put it up on my SoundCloud, so people can go out there and they can listen to it. So then other people come up to me and say, oh, we listen to your set all the time. Like, there's a friend of mine, his daughter, who's like 5 years old, she loves listening to it in the car, even though it has to kind of like mute certain parts because there are some songs that have got swearing in it. But yeah.
Daddy, Peppa Pig doesn't say motherfucker.
And what does that word mean? No, we won't go down that road. But the point is that...
The kid will know the word mother.
Yes, hopefully not. Yes. We'll leave it there. So somebody looks after a mother. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm literally in the process of putting all that together. We've got 18 days until I leave for Glastonbury. So very exciting times.
Very exciting.
Speaking of exciting times, you're also going on a little trip very soon, going to New York.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you sound more excited about it than that.
No. The only reservation I have, and I'm actually going to stop saying this because I've typically not been a good flyer, and therefore I've not gone to New York for 15 years because it's a long flight. But I was reading something about self-help with fear of flying, and I think it applies to all phobias. Stop saying to people that you've got a phobia. Say the opposite. And I'm now saying, just because I'm sure everyone wants to know this, I'm not scared of flying anymore, Mo. Definitely not scared of flying. I'm going to go to New York every year, twice a year for
Fantastic.
the next million years.
So as someone who has... you know, a mother who lives in America, doing that transatlantic journey has become regular to me. Like, I don't even notice it anymore.
Yeah,
like
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, all the only thing I notice is there comes a point about 3 or 4 hours in where I have to get up and walk around and take. Yeah, my big advice.
Yeah,
take your shoes off almost as soon as you can.
Okay.
As soon as you can.
Wash your feet carefully before you do that.
Yeah, obviously. Because your feet do expand. And if your feet start to feel like they're tight in your shoes, then obviously if you're nervous, then that could exacerbate those kind of things. So take your shoes off, get a chance to have a bit of a walk around, get used to your surroundings.
Yeah.
And some people like listen to music, some people read a book, some people watch the movies. What I always find, and this is really, I don't know if it's just a me thing or an everyone thing, is that I'll say I'm not going to watch the movies, and then I'll end up listening to music, but then I'll just end up watching snippets of movies between the gaps in the chairs or whatever, one in the front
Other
row.
people's food.
Oh yeah,
I do that on planes.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm trying to work out what shit is. You go, what the fuck's that? Looks brilliant. I remember sort of watching little slithers of somebody's movie for about an hour a couple of years ago and working out it was one of the Joker Batman movies.
Okay.
And I thought, that's brilliant. I ended up going some Google search, but also trying to just from a few bits and pieces. Yeah.
But you can't really just tap me on someone on the shoulder and be like, what are you watching? Because they're going to be like, well, why are you looking? You just
I've been looking over your shoulder. Weirdly. Like a fucking creep.
That presence you felt is me.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring up your trip to New York is because you haven't been there for a while and you are kind of looking for some recommendations for cool things to do, cool places to go. So I know that we've got essentially only about 2 or 3 minutes left of the YouTube show. So if you are watching on YouTube, in the comments on this video, if you've got any recommendations for other places to go, throw them in the comments. I will pass them on to him in due course. But I've loved every time I've gone to New York. Last time I was there was in March. Went to Brooklyn. I did a show in Brooklyn. Shout out to all of the Brooklyn LSE people. They're the ones who brought me this lovely scarf that I'm sitting here with.
It's nice.
The thing that I love about New York is that you can never see it all.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Glastonbury in that respect. Like, you can spend a whole day on a very small area,
like Manhattan.
Yeah.
What I did notice, Manhattan's quite small, isn't
is.
it? Well, the south to Central Park bit of it.
Yeah. Like the grid of roads.
Yeah.
It's really not that big, but you can still spend hours and hours and hours investigating different places, and yeah, I think whatever you're into, there is something to feed that particular excitement. So,
I'll tell the viewers what I'm into then. I always like to see how a city might have been before it became utterly modernised, because I think the modernised aspects of cities are kind of ubiquitous now. Wherever you go, a skyscraper looks like a skyscraper. The fanciest new restaurant in town looks like the fanciest new restaurant in town. I don't care what city you're in, they genuinely do, right? So I'm kind of interested in stepping back in time. So I like to find a tavern or a bar. In New York, I'm after those that just they look as close to how they might have looked 100, maybe even 50 years ago. If with New York, it's not the oldest city in the world. I mean, I've been to McSorley's and a couple of other places, and in the 3 or 4 times I've been to New York. So I'm interested in that sort of stuff, or some amazing vintage Italian restaurant from the golden era of Little Italy that still looks the same inside and out. Or I also want to know is what's the best street in. People go, Brooklyn's great. Yeah, but what's the best street with just the best cafes and bars and restaurants and the best vibe? If you took a picture of the street, it looked like vintage Brooklyn. I'd say the same. I'd love to know what's the best street in Harlem. I'd love to know, I mean, in the Village maybe, although I sort of have more knowledge of that. It's that kind of recommendation after kids, if I'm being specific.
Okay, well, I think that can definitely be done. I mean, so I'm trying to remember the name of the street. When I stayed in Brooklyn, it's a place. It was on the edge of Williamsburg.
Yeah,
and there was one main street that ran from one end to the other, and you had lots of roads going off it. But it had restaurants, it had bars, it had kind of little bric-a-brac shops.
Did it have a sort of old world Main Street USA vibe?
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm after.
And the one end of it was a massive park where everyone just kind of hung out and played sports and all that kind of stuff. If I remember the name of it, I'll let you know. But yeah, I feel like that's exactly.
I try to want to achieve the same thing. It's basically Brooklyn and Harlem. I'm curious about because I've been to neither. I've done a lot of Manhattan, far from know it, but I know my way around it. But those two sort of, I know they're at different poles of New York State, but I quite like to know what the best bits in those are.
Well, I think that. So Harlem's one I never quite managed to get to. So I'm fascinated about that myself. So if you do go, definitely let me know how that goes down. But I do think that the cool thing about it is that there is so much changes. But then, like you say, there's the old school stuff. Actually, and I know this kind of feels like we're going off topic a bit. Based on what you've just said, I think you'd love Boston. You know.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Boston.
All of the stuff that you just said. There's literally an old town in Boston. Like when I went there, my tour guides David and Adam, shout out to both of you guys because I know you watch the show. They took me around like the old towns. We went to the Celtics game, and then in the area where the Celtics stadium is, a little bit further off, there's like an old city, and you can have it was like late night cannoli stores, and there was like a little cafe where you could just sit in, get like different ice creams, gelatos with coffee, and very much felt like you were in an old 70s movie about what it looked like to be in the 30s and 40s. It was just exactly that kind of cool stuff. And
yeah, that's what I'm after.
Yeah, so if you get the chance, I don't know how long you're going for.
7 days. It's long enough.
Yeah, so
I don't think I'm going to get to Boston, but
I mean, it's a 2-hour train.
Is that all it is?
Yeah,
okay.
So it's not a million miles away.
Do you know what? I didn't realise that. Where'd you go? Grand Central and just...
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Now, we've come to the end of the time on the YouTube show. So if you were desperate to hear what Rob's end of season awards for the Liverpool season of 24-25 are going to be, he's looking at me like he hasn't even done them yet. So I'm kind of interested to see what he's going to say. If you want to hear what he thinks about the Champions League final, about the Club World Cup, if you want to hear about my ultimate knobhead test, and I know you do, then all of those things will be happening on our second show, the subscriber show, over on Patreon. If you want to come along, you can get a free trial. If you want to subscribe, it's £4 a month, and it gives you access to everything we've ever done. This is subscriber show number 110. So there's 109 other subscriber shows, some with me, some with Kopi, all of them with Robbo, where you can go and dive back through all of the in-jokes we've been having, all of the other crisp chat we've had, and everything else we've been getting up to. If none of that's your bag, though, while you are here, make sure, if you have enjoyed it, you click the little subscribe button, you leave us a comment, you leave us a like, you tell your friends, you do all those other things to feed the algorithm monster. But hey, this has flown by, hasn't it?
How long have we done?
It's done 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Fuck me.
Exactly. It's a long ass time. And someone did say that they thought that you were going to swear all the way through the show. And I think that might be the first one. So there you go. If someone was doing a drinking game...
I've sworn quite a few times. Because I tell you why. I don't know why I'm swearing more on this than I do on Amphi or App shows.
Because you're off the leash.
I'm off the leash. I'm off the leash. I'm away from home. Yes. Yeah. No one can stop me here.
No, he's on holiday already. Well, thank you all for watching the show. As I say, we'll be doing another one of these very soon. I'm just going to go to the toilet and maybe eat some more crisps. For now, we'll see you next week.